Let's talk about how to scale any business fast. And I'm going to tell you the lessons that I've learned by scaling and being behind the growth of 7, 8, and 9-figure businesses multiple times a year for the better part of a decade. And it all comes down to one principle that almost nobody is talking about. And I'm going to show you that today. And this comes from my background of being a Facebook marketer, being the guy that used to spend $1 million a day a decade ago on Facebook before there was a pixel. I used to think that finding the best ad on Facebook and getting the best CPA was the key. When I wrote the playbook for cost caps that you see most of the cost cap pros run these days, 6 years ago, I thought that was the trick. But I learned my lesson because I was taught by people that were better than me. And today we're going to unpack that. So if you're interested in blowing up your business well beyond some silly 7-figure revenue number where you're barely making 6 figures yourself and truly getting to the elite 8, 9-figure range, stick around. This video is for you. So let's unpack what that means, because I want you to understand that the funnel and the customer journey are two very different things. So we're gonna debunk some myths and then dive deep into what you should really be looking into. And I'll end this by giving you my simple logic flow that has helped me build massive businesses, whether it was helping 310 Nutrition go from 15 million to 100, or Under Outfit go from 50K a month, or Under Outfit go from 50K a month to $1 million a week in less than 2 years, and things that folks in the Facebook Ads MBA program are learning every single day, which is getting us wins on a consistent basis. Let me show you what's going to help you really find success. Instead of just getting yourself an 80-hour-a-week job that never pays overtime, and if you get sick or don't show up, you go out of business. Now, I want to preface all of this by saying, first off, I'm a Facebook marketer. I've spent an ungodly amount of money. By the time most of you got started, I had already spent more than you will probably spend in your career. That's not a slight. I just happened to be lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. By 2017, 2018, I had spent well over $500 million. Like, I had $1 million a day budget at one point in time. This is a fundamental truth I wish I knew 10 years ago. A successful business is one that can turn attention into money. The best business models are the ones that can most sustainably and predictably turn attention into future cash flow at a profit. I'm gonna show you how to do that today. This is coming from that place of also being the person that was dead wrong about most things, because I learned how to operate my Facebook ads by working in ad agencies. So let's unpack what I've learned by growing brands instead of just trying to not get fired. Step number 1, debunking the funnel myth. There is a very large difference between the sales funnel and the customer journey. Most importantly, what I want you to start thinking of is not that my customer journey is a few weeks long until they make a sale. That has nothing to do with it. Your marketing and sales funnel ends at the first purchase. That first purchase is basically a lead. Your customer journey is what happens after somebody buys and what leads to their second or third or fourth transaction with your business. You have to remember that businesses and products are two very different things. You can be a salesperson trying to make the best profit margin on selling any one thing to somebody who will never buy from you again, or you can be a business that's acquiring profitable customer journeys with future cash flow at a profit. That is a fundamental difference. What I want you to understand is a funnel is a vertical journey. Top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom funnel, that ends at a transaction. The customer journey, however, is a horizontal path from first transaction to multiple touch points to second transaction to ultimately achieving full LTV. If you're still worried about being most effective on the funnel and only looking at this point, you're missing all of this money. And let me tell you this money is usually a lot more than this money, and it's a lot cheaper to get. The fundamental flaw is most performance marketers will tell you getting this as efficient as possible is absolutely the most crucial thing you can do. But that's because they're performance marketers that get paid by their ability to take credit for your team's efforts to get this to happen, and most of them are paid by some commission on how much they can spend here. Your business can make decent money here or make you filthy rich. Understanding customer behavior in this customer journey and optimizing for repeat purchases is where real sustainable growth is achieved. So what we're gonna do is we're actually not gonna focus on this today. We're gonna focus on this. Remember I said it's about the end of the customer journey. That's the starting point to unpack the way to see massive scale in your brand. And yes, for the record, I'm talking about making more money in a month than you think success means if you make it in a year. And I'm talking about profit, not revenue. If your monthly profit could equal your annual revenue, now you've actually got something. The problem is most people who make flexes on the internet and teach you how to get successful, they're get-rich-quick scammers that are teaching you that revenue is actual profit and that is the success, and you should define your self-worth on basically far less than you deserve. So let's unpack the second part of this by starting at the end of the customer journey. And this is the power of the second purchase. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of brands that want to get into MRR, and there are beautiful things about having monthly reoccurring and annual reoccurring revenue, and that's beautiful and that's great. But the truth is, the vast majority of people who buy from you will never buy again. The single stickiest inflection point in the acquisition of revenue in your business is not optimizing your Facebook ads to get a sale for 23 instead of 30, is getting your business to go from 2% of people buy a second time to 5, or from 5% of people buy a second time to 15. Now, when we talk about just scaling all of this stuff, and we're using silly things like cost caps and Advantage Plus and audiences and PMAX and all of that things, where we have no idea what's gonna happen on a day-to-day basis. We could spend $100, we could spend $10,000. There's a lack of consistency in the quality and the volume and the quantity of transactions, which means you can't actually project cash flow or inventory or make human resources planning. We're actually focusing on scaling our business by turning a single-time customer into a repeat customer. Well, now it's about how sustainably does this happen, and that makes everything that goes into operating your business a lot easier. Remember that if you're selling a little bit of everything at a profit and you have no idea where that money goes every day, that means you have no idea where you're gonna be in 30 days, much less 45 or 60. What if it takes you 90 days to get your products restocked? Do you even know what's gonna be selling next week? Of course not. Unless it's like, well, we're just gonna dump more money into that. Why? So let me tell you the really easy way to go from worrying about all of this nonsense to easily understanding what gets you here. It's about understanding what products most easily and heavily index to future transactions. And there's a lot of expensive software and really fancy ways of going about doing this. You don't need any of that shit. It's really easy. Go back over the last 10 months and pull a list of all of your repeat customers and all of your new customers. And then cross-reference that list of repeat customers with new ones. What product most often shows up in the new column for folks that have bought multiple times? What product most heavily indexes to future cash flow? If you know that you're gonna get more LTV and your profit margin doesn't have to be built completely on day one, but is actually extrapolated out over customer journeys with multiple transactions, well, now ROAS is completely useless because you're now buying profitable customer journeys with multiple points of cash flow to LTV. And again, these transactions, they're a lot easier and way more profitable to achieve. Once you develop a business model around the acquisition of attention and the monetization of it to predictably and sustainably get these transactions, we'll get to a bit more of that in a bit, but what I'm trying to tell you is this journey is a lot more stable and a lot stickier. Your ad might die tomorrow, especially if you're doing cost caps or Advantage Plus or other silly things like that. So let's focus on the third principle here, which is maximizing customer retention. The sad truth is most business owners and operators and growth people are actually just performance marketers that have been taught that the holy grail is profit on day one. And to be fair, there's a few low integrity operators that really push that agenda because, well, they have a business model on charging you a commission on how much credit for your business's entire success they can take. They're also the ones that most heavily teach cost caps. I will let you drop comments down below if you can guess who those people are. Hint, hint, they're generally agencies that are shrinking their teams and charging more and more money. And if you cancel your contract because maybe they're a liability, they'll just fucking sue you. We have to change our focus and our strategies for most effectively getting that initial transaction, which of course has importance and value, to more effectively getting these people to buy a second or a third or fourth time. And the single most effective way of maybe getting somebody to buy a third or fourth time is to get them to buy a second. That inflection point is the single greatest fulcrum in most businesses and is sadly one of the most ignored data points by almost every performance marketer because, again, their motives have nothing to do with what you do with the customer after they buy, because their motives have nothing to do with your business success. Now, what this really gets to is we have to begin to look at conversion rate optimization, not just as how do we get customers to buy a second time, but also understand that conversion rate optimization is around how do we set up the right type of customers that are more likely to buy repeatedly. And what we really need to understand is when you're working on how do I set up a customer journey that predictably and sustainably takes a customer that buys once and gets them to buy a second time, or all of this other free money down this way, we have to remember that conversion rate optimization deals with a volume and a quality and a sustainability and, like all testing, a similarity and consistency of data. And why this really matters is the more different types of attention, the more different types of traffic, the more different types of people come into your store, the harder it is for you to understand how to turn any of them into repeat buyers. And so, because that work is infinitely more difficult, most people completely ignore it and just try to flex on the front end. They're trying to be the best carnival barker they possibly can instead of a decent business operator trying to actually make real money. What we have to understand from this, the action item to take away from this is, the more instability happens at the top of the funnel, the more impossible it is to test here to get somebody to this point. Think about it. If you're a salesperson and every day people walk into your store and every day they look and feel the same with the same pain points and the same objections and the same things that they're happy about, you're gonna get really good at getting them to buy. And even more than that, you're gonna get really good at understanding, well, who comes back? How do I get my customers to stay back? Like if you're a bartender, you're going to get regulars. But what if every single day the people that walked in the door were completely different? What if you changed your ads and your audiences all the time? Well, this is almost impossible. I want you to understand something here. What happens further down in the customer journey is really sticky. Maybe 1 out of 100 people that buys a fifth time. Maybe 1 out of 3 people that buys a second time. But it's going to be basically 1 out of 3 all the time, as long as the ads and the audiences don't change. As long as the type of customer that comes into your store doesn't really change, the results that happen after they purchase is more or less the same, and you can work on improving that. And if your LTV goes up, well, then what you can afford to spend to acquire that customer continues to go up as well, because you only really need to be profitable until anybody buys a second time. And then you're going to wake up with money in your Shopify. When I was running 310 Nutrition, when I started, it was maybe 25, 30K a day. It got to the point within a year that we were waking up with $40,000 in the bank account and I was hitting 100K by the end of the day. I was making more money from the repeat purchasers than I was spending on ads. That is how you make a lot of money, but you're never gonna do that if you're focused on this being the most important thing. So what we need to understand is, if these are the stickiest things, if these are the things that change the least, it's all about moving earlier and earlier in the customer journey and then moving up and up the sales funnel. It's all about getting the most amount of stability, which ultimately means having the least amount of change, the least amount of instability and unknowns. Because again, if this changes all the time, well, then this is going to be harder to test. And then this is almost impossible to really work on because this is changing all the time. And then the people that buy, well, you have no idea what they're going to do afterwards because the type of people you bring into your store change every single day. So instead of working on this, instead of trying to get your Facebook CPA to be better and thinking that's going to get you more cash flow and make you an 8-figure business, let's talk about what's actually going to do it, because that's the promise of this video. Here's the fundamental truth that almost nobody's talking about. What we really need to do is start at the end of the customer journey. Now, we mentioned this before, but let me go into more detail. If we know that 5% of people buy a second time and we can get it to 10 or 15 or 20, at some point, this last touch point, we can no longer get any more efficient. We can't open that. We had a bottleneck here and we can't get to any more volume over here. We've maxed out our operational capacity as a business model to get any more people through this as a ratio, okay? So when we max out our ability to take anybody into a second time buyer, and we've reached this bottleneck in our business and we can't expand it any more operationally, what do we do next? Well, we go one step earlier in the customer journey. And we do the same exercise. How do we improve our business model and our operations to get this bottleneck to be as big as possible? And at some point, we're gonna reach some max capacity. And to be fair, maybe this thing that happens over here, we used to be capped, but we can actually expand it a little bit because now we've gotten a little bit better at operations, we got more data, and we can get, instead of 5% of people buying a second time, we've got it up to 10 or 15. And now we're getting a really understanding of how do we turn some of them into subscribers? How do we improve this business model and lift the LTV to 4, 5, 6 different purchases? Great. This is what really matters, right? And at some point, this maxes out and then this maxes out. So let's move to this step, which might be the end of the sales funnel, all right? How do we get the most people here? Now, you're gonna say, well, just run as much cost caps and all this Vantage Plus and all this other nonsense, but like, what if you're running your Facebook ads and it gets you a $30 cost per sale and your allowable is a 30 and you've doubled your budget and you can't get any more efficient here? Well, if you've doubled your budget, when's the last time you touched your search? What about improving your organic? What about getting affiliates or simple things like improving your email flow? What if you can make all of the things that are far more efficient than Facebook? Because remember, Facebook is probably the single least efficient marketing channel that should be in your mix until you're at like 30, 40, $50 million. You probably don't need to focus on anything else. Then get all of those to be better. I can't tell you how many times I talk to folks in the MBA program that have come from agencies that have scaled them to the moon and then everything crashed. And nobody ever said, hey, we've taken you from 500 a day to 2,000 a day. Maybe you should double your search budget. Maybe you should be working on your email flows and your onboarding flows. Maybe you should be working on your customer service and the way that you treat customers. Maybe you should be focusing on products that ultimately lead to multiple purchases. Maybe you should be, instead of trying to sell everything at a profit here and then trying to figure out the rest of your business, maybe you should figure out the single thing that is best for your business model and your objective, the thing that gives you the most sustainable and projectable access to future cash flow to profit. Maybe you should make that your number one objective. Instead of doing 15 things poorly, you can do one thing really well. Maybe that should be your focus. And when you do everything after this first touch point, the middle, the bottom funnel, those things that are like search and email and CRO and organic and affiliates and influencers, all of those things that are way cheaper and more effective than Facebook is. Optimize those out to the point where that bottleneck has expanded to the point where you can no longer run it more efficiently than the thing that comes before it. Well, if you're trying to optimize those efficiencies, just like that happens on the CRO of your landing page, changing your ads on Facebook is a giant liability. Because again, if the type of people that come to your store change every day, do you really think you're gonna be able to make your landing page convert better? One of the things that I see all the time is, well, we got a CRO team and every week we're getting 5%, 10%. Every month we're getting 1 or 2 of these like 10, 15% improvements in sustainability and conversion rate. Awesome. Why are we still at a 2.1? If we're getting 20% better consistently, why are we still at the same number? Well, it's because this thing that happened before changes every single day. So like while you're winning up here and getting lucky and chasing all of this stuff that's completely unsustainable, what happens further down in the funnel and all this way out in the customer journey is completely chaotic, even though this is where the vast majority of your money is made. The purpose of the funnel is to amplify the volume of people that go through this journey. What you want is the best funnel that sets your customer journey up for the most sustainable and predictable access to future cash flow to profit. The single biggest liability to that is changing what happens on Facebook all the time, or promoting a bunch of different products. I had a call with somebody joining the Facebook Ads MBA program earlier this week, and let's just say they had given a lot of money to the folks of the world. And everybody got really good at getting this sale to happen down here efficiently. But he never got past like $2.5 million a year. And their idea was, well, get more products and get greater efficiency, and we get more profit margin, we can throw more of it into the business and all sorts of stuff. And he saw that what happened is they were scaling up the ad spend and they were taking larger commission on all that ad spend, and he was paying more and more money out to all these people, but the actual take-home money in his pocket never changed. When we looked at what was going on, we saw, well, they was actually promoting 5 different products. So I said, okay, let's take it for instance. If one of these never gives you future profit, another one gives you a 5% lift, and another gives you 100% lift. Every time you invest in making no future profit, that's money that could be spent in doubling that money. Yeah, you're making a profit on day one, but you're denying your access to a 2x lift. And to be fair, if you focused on only getting that 2x lift, and you made it your job to get one additional transaction, if it went from 0 to 5%, or from 5% to 20, it's not a 2x lift. It could be a 3, a 4, or a 5. That's where the real money is made. Your Facebook ads are all about amplifying the opportunity that your business model has. This is the single greatest lesson that I've learned from going from an agency style of marketing. And believe me, I was supervisor at Omnicom and I ran a million different agencies. I accidentally started multiple 6- and 7-figure agencies at my desk while working for other people. I've shared that in the How to Make 7 Figures as a Media Buyer. But the thing that I didn't know, because I wasn't actually growing businesses, I was just trying to take as much credit, and I was offended when I scaled a business 10x and my billable went from $3,000 a month to $20,000 a month that they fired me. What I didn't understand was I wasn't actually helping the business be more effective at monetizing the attention to future cash flow at a profit. All I was doing was more effectively getting somebody to get to this point. But this point is the smallest amount of money you can make. Focusing on the funnel, being as good as possible to get the best CPA is basically like peaking in high school. Awesome, you were prom king and now you're a shoe salesman. Awesome, you got 4 touchdowns in 1 game and now every day is just a struggle to get to the end of. Or you can realize that that's just step 1 of a much bigger journey. I want to recap a few really key insights before we get to the end of this. The first thing is a business model is what scales the advertising. You're gonna hear a lot of lies from a lot of marketers, and I'm totally guilty of having said this myself, that my operation of the ad account scaled the business. That's a complete lie. At best, you've helped that business take advantage of all the opportunity on the table. You've helped them get the biggest piece of the pie. You never made the pie any bigger. That's fundamental truth number 1. Fundamental truth number 2, things that happen further down in the funnel and later in the customer journey have a much bigger impact on your bottom line and are far stickier. If you can improve your conversion rate by 10%, that happens on all customers from everywhere. If you can improve your second purchase rate by 10%, that happens on all customers from everywhere. One of these things makes you a ton more money. The other one gets you a nice screenshot of an ad account on Facebook. The third fundamental truth is the way to fix your problems is to look as far down in the funnel and as late in the customer journey as possible to some inflection point that you can no longer make any better. And then look to one step before it and amplify the volume of things you get to that place. Now, often what this looks like is I've got a second purchase rate of like 10% or 15% or 30% or 5%. And I'm trying to get better at this, but I'm only getting like so many people here. So how do I get better at this inflection point? How do I make this bottleneck bigger? Well, I work on what happens after the first purchase to get somebody to this point. If I can improve my customer journey, if I can improve the product quality, if I can improve the way I talk to people or the way I treat them or my user experience or my business model and operations to change it from 5% of people get to this point to say 10% of people get from this point to this point, imagine how much easier it's gonna be for me to get people from here beyond. And when you maximize that, you move further in the customer journey, and then ultimately you move further up the funnel. You don't scale a business by trying to do as much crazy shit up here. You start it where the money is made, and you work your way backwards. It's like if you want to be successful, you don't look to the next step you should make. You look to what your goal should be, and you back it up. For instance, I'm going to take Disruptor School to a $10 million business in the next 18 months. I made $1 million last year, and I made a video earlier this year where I showed you every step of the way of what it took me to get from a few $100,000 to $1 million, and I showed my P&L where that $1 million came with $7,000 in refunds because the Facebook Ads MBA program in Disruptor School is legit. Hundreds of people have gone through it. It's more than $7,000 at the premium level. Over the entire year, I netted $7,000 in refunds. That goes to the quality of what we're talking about here. So how am I gonna do that? If that's my goal, I have to say, what am I doing right now that's not gonna let me get there? Well, one of the things I found is I can't scale the Disruptor School Slack group to a $10 million product. In order for me to take a $500 a month product to $1 million a month, which gets me to that 8-figure runway, I would have to get an unsustainable amount of people. And you know the operational cost and overhead and time and labor and testing it's gonna take for me to just get that to happen 1 month, much less keep it sticky? That's crazy. But if my Facebook Ads MBA program is, say, 10K-ish, on average between a standard program and then the premium program and then the postgraduate stuff, well, then I only need 4 or 5 sales a day. And so I say, okay, if I get 4 or 5 sales a day, what do I need to do to make that happen? And I back my way up into my goal. The same thing's gonna happen here. If you want to be an 8-figure business, don't start at how most effectively do I get somebody in. Focus on what is the thing that makes me the most money, and then back your way into what you need to be doing. Take the last bottleneck of most value and expand it as much as you can, and then work on the step beforehand to drive as much volume to it. And eventually you will get to the point where you actually need to worry about the Facebook ad. But it is one of the least impactful things to making the most amount of money. The honest truth is, for brands that I've taken them from $3,000 a day to $50,000 a day in ad spend, it doesn't happen because we test 1,000 ads. It's because we have a couple of ads that drive somebody through the funnel and gets them to start a customer journey in a way that is projectable and profitable. And we just take a little bit of this profit and we take what's at the very end of this customer journey and we throw it back into the top of the funnel. As long as we don't change how this operates, it is just a fractional banking machine. That's what I mean when I say cost cap is stupid, because it makes this completely unknowable and it makes this almost completely untestable and the improvement of your business model basically impossible. Audiences are a complete waste of your time, because if they change out all the time up here, what do you think is gonna happen when you change your audience and you change your ads and you're attracting different types of people because you're creating different pockets of the audience and all of this stuff down to this inflection point? Do you think if that changes every single day or every single week or every single month, you're going to realistically be able to turn that person into something else that's of more value because this person changes constantly? The answer is no. So what I want to do is challenge you to do 3 things today. First, take your return customers and your new customers and index them against each other. Now, the easiest way to do this, you can use a bunch of expensive software. You can go out of your way to do a million fun and crazy and smart things, or you could literally just make an Excel spreadsheet of returning customers and what they bought, all your return transactions, and then your new customers and what they bought, all of your first transactions. Throw it into ChatGPT and say, of all my returning customers, what was the most common thing bought on the first trip? You can get that done in like 15 seconds for free. maybe you pay the $20 a month, but it's not added value to get to ChatGPT 4 because you probably already have it. At that point, you can start to work out profitable customer journeys. You can focus on PSM rather than ROAS. You can say, I have an LTV of a customer. That customer on average buys X number of times, and it costs me between CPA and COGS this much to get that transaction. Well, if I already have this customer journey working and I've maximized the LTV, I can't get people to buy more than, say, 2.5 times. Okay. And if I've gotten to that point, then I've probably maximized the LTV transactions, and I've tried to maximize my second purchase transactions, and I've gotten the most effective journey from individual sale down to that second post. Okay, at that point, then we work up the funnel and see if that means we can afford to spend more money to acquire transactions because we are too efficient. We can take some of this revenue and dump it back in here, because honestly, if it's 1,000 a day or 10,000 a day or 50,000 a day that we can add back into this machine, and we don't change how this machine functions, we're going to, yes, get less efficient as it scales in volume. We are just amplifying the volume of opportunity that our business model has. You know what happens when you amplify the volume? Your ability to test every step of the way improves, because testing is about data. And if you're testing 10 different products with 5 different landing pages and 100 different ads, you're getting very small amounts of data. And if you're doing that with things that provide instability in the front end of your business model, then that data isn't consistent in volume, in quality, in makeup, in character, and like there's no consistency. And if every single day that you run a test, your data set looks completely different, the ability for you to make actionable insight is basically null and void. If you have complete fucking chaos here, the ability for you to improve what happens here is basically impossible. This is where the money is made. This is where your ego gets served. And I'll close with this. First off, I know I said a lot of things today, and I would love to know your thoughts. Please comment down below. And I mentioned the Facebook Ads MBA program throughout this video. Again, we've shared the QR code a couple times. It's been on the screen. The link is down below. I highly encourage you to join that, because for less money than you're paying your ad agency for a single month, you will never need them again. And if you're an ad agency trying to scale your business operations, trust me, when you become an undeniable value adding partner, because you're focused on more than just how much credit for everybody else's work can you take, but you actually make the pie bigger, you're never going to get fired. But what I want to close with this statement. I want to close with one simple thought to leave you with today. What does success mean to you? And I want you to honestly take a look at what you're doing and see if what you value day to day is going to get you there. The vast majority of people that I see coming to the Facebook Ads MBA program who have been through the ringer of all those low integrity agencies and are trying to scale their businesses, almost none of them have continuity between daily operations and the promotion of their business and their ultimate end goals. That's the biggest liability to the access of happiness and joy that you can provide for yourself. There's a reason why I'm able to exit brands on a regular basis. There's a reason why I have been able to help brands grow to 8 and 9 figures. And it's because we start with the why. Simon Sinek's golden circle. What are we trying to do here? Our why is we want to get to 10 million a month. We want to get to 10 million a year. We want to get to $1 million. Well, is what we're doing here going to help that to happen? And overwhelmingly, the answer to that is fuck no. There's almost no correlation. And when you can honestly look at yourself and understand this and this, you're going to be able to say, I want this. That means I have to get better at this and this and this and this, and then I can work on this and this and this. And then at that point, you could be making more money a month or a week than you actually took home in a year. Those are real success stories. I get them all the time in the MBA program. Again, we've had hundreds of people come through, dozens of people a year see that type of thing happen. You deserve that kind of success. You shouldn't define happiness as peaking in high school. That should be step one of a much bigger journey. The unfortunate truth is, the vast majority of people out here that talk about these things don't give a fuck about you. And it's way easier to get clicks to say how to make $1 million overnight. And they show some great screenshot of a Shopify account, but they don't account for marketing costs or COGS. They say, well, I've got a Facebook ROAS of whatever the fuck. That's not real money. That's not take-home bank account. Generally, that's according to some attribution model that they've decided on because it made them look good. You know, all of those cost cap bros today, 40 years ago, they were 28-day attribution bros. Because their business model isn't about making your business any better. It's about taking as much credit for the pie as possible, not making the pie bigger. That's what I'm gonna leave you with. So once again, there's the QR code for the Facebook Ads MBA program. I encourage you to check it out. You deserve success. And it's getting dark out here at Disruptor HQ, and I've got my little girl down here. Hi, Charlie. Yeah, she's asleep. Which is weird, because I've been yelling for like 30, 45 minutes. But she's used to that. She's my girl after all. I just want to say, it brings me great joy to see all of your successes. My why is your success. My flex is how many of you have been able to see unprecedented success and your joy and the jobs and opportunity you are creating for your family and your community and people around the world. My flex isn't my bank account that I've built up by being dishonest intellectually and seeing how many people I can take advantage of with a get-rich-quick scheme. That's what separates me from all of them. And there's a reason why their best ideas are generally things that I said a couple years ago, taken out of context with one little piece blown up. The cost cap business model of run everything you can at a cost cap across everything, that was me 6 years ago figuring out cost caps at 310 Nutrition. I posted my ebook for free for everybody in my Patreon, and it is quite literally the playbook that I'm seeing every one of them run. At some point, when you live in LA, you've been here long enough to be able to spot folks that were raised in Scientology. No shade. And when you're in Utah, you can see people that were raised in the LDS. Again, nothing wrong with that. But when you're in digital marketing, you can smell it like onions and garlic on somebody's breath when they were taught how to operate a business from somebody whose business model is to abuse their clients that they don't give a fuck about. And the honest truth is, that's the vast majority of ad agencies and most of the well-respected, popular people that you're gonna see on most stages. You deserve better than that. And with my whole heart, I wanna say that my life has changed by figuring these things out. And I can only do this because all of you have seen so much of that success. And again, I've made a promise to this year show you everything that has helped me be successful. And what we covered today was a fundamental truth to the success that you deserve. And something that nobody else is talking about. Because everybody else defines success as, how do I get to this point? When this is quite literally base camp. This is step one. This isn't success. This is validation. You deserve more than that. So thank you very much. I know you could be anywhere on the internet and you've chosen to be here, and for that I want to say thank you. I love all of you, and it was interesting. I saw the other day a response to my newsletter, and somebody was like, the outros on your videos tell me that you care. And the honest truth is, I do. I've been actually able to do a little bit better than a lot of those flex bros by actually having integrity. And to quote some really great marketers, like, well, I won't name drop here, but you can check it out online. Google, if you want to know what everybody's going to be talking about in 2 or 3 years, you should listen to Charlie. That is a hard quote from some brilliant minds. So with that being said, I love you. Thank you so much. Subscribe, like the video, all of that fun stuff. And until next time, I'll see you on the internet. Bye.